This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I am your host, Mark. It took me about 7 years to get today's guest. That's because he was too busy helping other artists with their public relations. Welcome one of my oldest podcasting friends, Howard Wuelfing. Howard was instrumental in kicking off the DC punk scene early on, but he wasn't originally from the area. Howard talks about growing up just outside of New York City and how that influenced his entire life. He was getting into the nascent New York City punk scene when an opportunity arose in DC that he could not pass up. But instead of wondering what was going on in New York, he decided to help build a scene in Washington. He tells some great stories about some of the dingier venues he's played, some of the iconic people he's played with, and how they all came together to help each other out in true DIY fashion. Howard founded two seminal DC zines back in the early 80s called Descenes and Discords, and has compiled them all in a limited release. He tells the story of how they started, who was involved, and what happened to them. It's a crazy story. Go to www.dewolf.com, that's DIWULF, to pick up a signed copy. Check out performanceanx.threadless.com for podcast merch, or ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety to send us coffee money. And on a personal note, thank you for everything you've done for this podcast, Howard. It truly would not be the same without you. Please enjoy Howard Wuelfing on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Howard Wuelfing, and I'm on the anxiety. Hi, this is Howard Wuelfing, and I'm on the Performance Anxiety Podcast with Mark Shea.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, if I had your phone number and like your name was right next to Mike Shea, who founded Alternative Press, and like, that's why I am. And also, it's like, I'm not a night guy, I'm a morning guy. Hi, this is Howard Wuelfing on the Performance Anxiety Podcast. We're talking about Descenes and Discords, an anthology which collects up two fanzines that I produced in Washington, D.C. between 1979 and 1981. The 6 issues of Descene talk about specifically the D.C. pre-hardcore punk scene, and Discords looks at like emerging local scenes around the United States, most of which were being underserved by national press as well as their hometown press in those days. And if you want to pick up a copy, go to dewolf.com, DIWULF.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Is there any social media that you want to promote here? I mean, because I can tag that on the end there too. So,
nah.
All right. Good enough. Well, before we jump into too much, I want to thank you, because I would say at least a full third of my episodes are because of you. So thank you so much for introducing me to so many amazing artists. You know, some I knew, a lot I didn't, and I found so much amazing music through you. So I wanted to thank you for just working with me for 7 years now or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you are more than welcome. Thank you for the support you give all these wacky clients of mine.
My pleasure.
It's much appreciated. I'm glad that you perceive this as of them being worthy.
Oh, absolutely. Some of them have become friends. So, and some of them, in fact, through you, have contributed to the Spinal Tap project that I'm releasing, and will be out as this recording, probably about a week from this recording. So
excellent.
So it's for Teen Cancer America, and we've got 35 tracks on it. So it's going to be a pretty big one.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. For, some of them you reached out to for me, which I thought was amazing, and some of them I met through you and just reached out directly. So, you know, it's been amazing, and I keep thanking you for this, but I really cannot thank you enough. So I will probably continue to thank you as we work together through the next 7 years or so.
Oh, God help me.
Well, the way this normally goes is I like to learn a little bit about your history and how you got into music, because it's in one way or another, it's been your career. And so it had to start somewhere. So I'm always curious to see how it grasped you in the first place. I mean, was music a big presence in the household growing up? I mean, were your parents into music? Were there any professional musicians in the family or anything like that?
Okay. This is the kind of question that causes me to digress at length.
That's fine with me. Feel
free to reel me in at any point when you're like, what's your point here? Okay. So my parents listened to the radio a lot. They listened to a station out in New York, WOR, which had all sorts of odd things, including airing Broadway shows. So I heard that a lot. I took classical piano lessons when I was a wee lad. Did that for a number of years, did recitals and stuff like that. And, eventually, got more interested in rock music, and the teachers were not interested in helping me with that. So I gave up the piano, bought an incredibly cheap electric bass and started playing bass then. And that led to a whole bunch of stuff over the years. And I guess what really made me think about rock is that I had been a big sports fan, especially a baseball fan.
Oh, nice.
Of the area teams, the Yankees and the Mets. And suddenly I realized that half the kids in my school, not only did they look very different from us because they had entirely different clothes on, they were wearing dresses. Well, they're wearing uniform skirts and stuff like that. But I realized I wanted them to pay attention to me. And that none of them seemed to be into sports in those days. And so that there was this music stuff they liked. I'm like, I have to study this.
Right.
And it went from there.
What, was there something that made you pick the bass instead of because everybody seems to gravitate towards guitar. Everyone wants to be the guitar hero. Was there something about the bass that grabbed you instead of that?
Hearing Cream and Jack Bruce. Basically it. That was my guiding light for many a year. That is the way I aspired to play. That's the speed I played at. That's the kind of dithering around I did. Not certainly on his level, but looking to play like that. And it was hearing the first Ramones album that made me think, I'm doing this all wrong.
Oh, really? Wow.
Wow, this is so much better. It's so focused and it's coherent, and I moved from there. I moved from the simplicity of Dee Dee Ramone's playing, which was always pretty much playing tonics on the beat.
Yeah.
To realizing they just sound like this band The Who, and they do this with these songs. The bass player does this with similar structures on early Who songs, and it just really changed my way of thinking, from there on, when it came to playing bass.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. So, as you're at this phase in your life, are you having aspirations of becoming a professional musician, or did you go on another path? Because I know writing is important also in what you do every day. Were you writing at that point too? Was that as important as music, or did that come later or before?
When I was in high school, I started writing for the school paper.
Okay.
Which was published, I forget, maybe monthly, but more frequently than you would expect. And me and one of the editors were big into going to concerts. We went to a school in a town called Jersey City, which is where I'm from. It's right across the Hudson River from Manhattan.
Yeah.
Manhattan was like a subway ride away. And so we, would see all these shows, which were at Madison Square Garden, which was like easy to get to. You'd walk 3 blocks, get on the subway. It ended at Madison Square Garden. So, we saw all these people like The Who and Elton John and the Faces and, these weird benefit concerts, concert from Bangladesh.
Oh, wow.
And John Lennon, I forget what that benefit concert was titled, but the John Lennon benefit concert. So a lot of concerts.
Yeah. There's nothing like live music.
No. And, so I'm watching this, I'm writing for the school paper. And probably at that point, I started writing about music for them.
Oh, okay.
But I can't really remember, but I could have.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think even in those days, I'd gone to a show at Max's Kansas City, and I saw Howlin' Wolf play with like a small combo.
Oh, wow.
As I remember it. And so I wrote up a review, and I mailed it to the Village Voice, and, and they published it.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I can do this. This is kind of a big deal. I was a big Village Voice fan. And I think I wrote 1 or 2 other things for them. And I thought, like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a rock music writer. This is what I want to do. I loved Cream magazine. I loved Lester Bangs. I loved Richard Meltzer. I thought they were brilliant. I loved their style of writing. I loved their immersion in the situations they were writing about.
Right. Yeah.
And and I had a couple of things that were published in Cream, and. I was looking to expand on that. I was a fan of this thing called Phonograph Record Magazine out of LA. I wrote them some stuff, and they were like, yeah, we're full up, but you should try this thing Zoo World in Miami. And so I tried them, and they ran some things of mine. And the editor was a guy named Arthur Levy, who years later was a co-worker at Columbia Records.
Oh,
nice. He became a co-worker because I knew he was there, and, I said, like, hey, I hear there's like an opening there. Can you help me out? And he said, well, you're not going to get it, but sure. And then I got it. And,
Okay.
So I had been like, doing that. I had moved to DC right out of college, and wound up writing for the local entertainment monthly, the Unicorn Times.
Okay. So did you go to school for writing? I mean,
No.
was that your pursuit, or was it something else?
I went to school because you were supposed to go to school.
Yeah.
Basically. And I took classes because I took all the classes that had the shortest lines. In those days, you would have to go and sign in person. You'd go to these various buildings, and there'd be these huge lines. And I hate lines, so I just would always get on the shortest line. So, I'd wind up taking like German literature in German, the demagification of the Renaissance world.
Oh my gosh.
And so I didn't even declare a major, but sort of in my senior year, I got a notice saying like, yeah, you have a double major in English and history. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
like,
thanks.
what do I do with that? They're like, oh, you should go to law school. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I guess I'll do that.
Oh my god.
And so I took the LSATs once, just because it seemed like I was supposed to do that.
Right.
And started getting all these invitations to these various like law schools and stuff.
Oh wow.
But a woman I was dating at that time, we went to a movie called The Paper Chase, which is about going to law school and then becoming a lawyer.
Yeah.
And, it was fairly horrifying to me. And so we come out of this movie. She goes like, oh, so you just saw that. Do you really want to be a lawyer? I'm like, no, not really. Not like at all. What do you want to be? I'm like, I want to be a rock writer. She goes, well, if we get married and move to Washington, I'll get a day job and you can try and do that.
Wow.
So there I was in Washington doing that.
Oh my gosh. That's fun. So that's how you ended up in Washington. So were you still in bands playing music at that time too?
Eventually, fairly quickly, got to DC, tried to get my feet planted. I was initially tasked with creating the Washington bureau for a Philadelphia rock magazine called Concert Magazine.
Oh, wow.
They just said, you should do this. I'm like, okay, here's 2 guys. Start with them. Like, okay. So, I got out the phone book, looked up those 2 guys. It was Richard Harrington, who was the editor of the Unicorn Times.
Okay.
And Mark Jenkins, who was a fanzine writer. And since they gave me no direction and no budget and nothing, that really did not proceed. But I had those 2 contacts, and Richard wound up inviting me to write for the Unicorn Times. And Mark also was writing for the Unicorn Times. And also, we somehow wound up both doing production work. Newspaper production work there.
Wow. Okay. So when you say production work, what does that entail? What would you be doing with that?
Well, he was working the camera that you use to make halftone prints.
Oh, okay.
This is photo offset.
Yeah.
And, it was old school. So he's like knocking out the halftone prints. You guys can Google that.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what that means. I was in charge of doing the physical paste stuff. They would run out the print in like long things, and like I had layout sheets, and it was like penciled in what went where, and I would sit there with like my X-Acto blade and wax all over my fingers and put these things together.
It's just a lost art.
It is a lost art. And at the same time, I had been in bands, and I was looking to be in bands. And those days, you would put classified ads in newspapers saying, "Hi, I'm looking for a band."
Yep.
And specify whatever pretensions you had. And I think actually, I started by like seeing a classified, and someone was citing the Yardbirds of Roxy Music as influences, and I thought like that works for me.
Yeah,
I love Roxy music, and I love the Yardbirds, and so that was my first DC band. It was called The Look.
Oh wow, okay. What you've done is just fascinating to me because you're doing stuff for people, but you're also branching out and doing your own thing, which I've tried to and doing in my entire life anyway. Having this job that I've got to focus on, but also doing either my photography or this podcast or something. Was it difficult for you? I mean, you're in a new place, you're starting this new job, and you're in a new band. I mean, it sounds like a kind of like a wild juggling act.
No, it didn't feel that way. You're
just staying busy.
I was in a strange town, hundreds of miles away from my hometown, from the place I went to college. And, it was all very exotic to me, and also, kind of lonely because, until I went to college, I lived in one city, Jersey City, my entire life. Everyone I knew were like people at school or on the block. And in college, I wound up having like a batch of friends. The guys who ran the newspaper, again, they had a daily newspaper in those days, where I was also an editor for a couple of years. So I was just looking to have, a community to like be part of.
Yeah.
So actually, when I first moved to DC, one of the things I would do in those days is go looking for record stores.
Oh,
go look at the record stores. It's like, because I figured this is my comfort zone. And I was already on like record company mailing lists from college. So someone had hit me to this thing that they mail you free records if you ask them to, and you make a point of sending the reviews back. I'm like, sounds pretty easy. That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
So, I did that. and I stayed on those lists. And of course, you get X amount of stuff that's useful and X amount that's not so useful to you. And so you look to get rid of it. So, go to record stores saying, hey, do you guys buy promos? The guy behind the desk goes, are you a rock writer? I'm like, I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
And this guy was a rock writer. He was like one of the only black rock critics in America. His name was Gordon Fletcher.
Oh, wow.
Who sadly passed a long time ago, just from disease, natural causes.
Yeah.
And he wrote for Cream Magazine. He said, I'm Gordon Fletcher. I'm like, oh my God. Like, Cream Magazine. This is so cool.
Wow.
And, we were pals. He was writing. He was trying to get into management. He was managing this metal band called Pentagram. I remember him like playing me the reel-to-reel tape of their demos.
Oh my gosh.
Stuff like that. And he's the one that one day calls up and says like, hey, there's a punk show in DC. Do you want to go? Now, this to me was this was really crucial because I had just moved away from the New York area as sort of punk was becoming visible. And just as I'm moving away, I'm like, wait a minute, this stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
I want to do that. But it's just nope. And so I was like, oh, there's going to be a punk show. Great, let's go. And it was at this nasty little dive bar called The Keg up on Wisconsin Avenue above Georgetown.
Okay, yeah.
In a nasty little strip mall. And I saw this band called Overkill, not the metal band,
but
there was a punk band, a garage punk band called Overkill, who were they were great. They were funny. It was a lot of garage rock covers, some quirky originals, and I'm pretty sure the first version of the Slicky Boys were playing that gig too.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I met the Slicky Boys manager. I'm saying, oh, I'm in a band too, work all the look. And the Slicky Boys very soon after that broke up. And the manager, a guy named Steve Lorber, who's still around, he used to DJ a show called Mystic Eyes on GTB, the infamous Georgetown radio station that basically the college shut down because they felt it was too incendiary.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was just it was hardcore garage rock, which in those days was it was so exotic to people.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of garage rock geeks around was really small in those days.
Okay.
So, Slicky Boys broke up and Steve reached out to my band and said hey, I set up a residency at the Keg. We're going to have a punk night, a weekly punk night. Do you want to play it? And I forget, it was horrible money. Maybe $100 for the band. And we'd have to play 3 sets.
Oh my gosh.
It was rough.
Wow.
It was rough. But it became the locus for most of the early pre-hardcore punks in DC. All those people came to those shows and to hang out and be with each other and stuff like that. And it was great in a way.
So you're there basically at the very beginning of the DC punk scene, at which it's become very influential over the years. But
yes,
did you see any similarities between what had been starting in New York and what was going on in DC, or was it as a completely separate or different type of growth?
It was different because in New York you had more clubs that had original scrappy bands play. CBGB's, Max's Kansas City, Great Gildersleeves, Unganos, where the Stooges could play. When the Stooges were touring back in those days. They'd had Iggy living there.
Wow.
When the first version of the Stooges had broke up, he was living in New York with his manager, Danny Fields. And the New York Dolls, played in New York, and the Dictators, and there's a whole batch of these sort of very scrappy kind of glam rock bands, but really sort of garagey, scruffy groups that had existed there. So it was like it wasn't far-fetched for them to make this change. In DC, there was nothing. The keg was there.
Really? Oh, that was it.
I mean, that was it. And otherwise, you had sort of early glam metal bands, people like Bucks and Angel that had come from DC. You had the sort of singer-songwriter scene that kind of peaked by that point in time.
Okay.
But at one point, I mean, DC was the place where people like, Bruce Springsteen and Emmylou Lou Harris and all these people, like, this was like part of their circuit and integral to them, sort of getting bigger and being established on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And you had show bands, basically people who played covers of, the rock hits of the days. That was it. That was the music scene.
Wow.
And Overkill and the Slicky Boys, and then my band, The Look, and at one place in the beginning. And then they shut down, and we're scrambling to find someplace else.
Oh,
It wasn't like, oh, you can't play here. You can't play Maxis. We'll go play CB's instead. I mean, there was no alternative. We had to like make those.
Oh, wow.
And to me, this is like an important part of the genesis of sort of DC underground rock culture. I mean, there was nothing. We built it all like from scratch. Man. And by we, not me, like everyone, there were a lot of people like doing this. So we were determined, like, we're going to do this. We're going to play. It's like we found this one horrible place. We'll find other horrible places that like let us come in and play. It was a place to most of these were like one-off gigs because like we do it one night and the owners were appalled by the people who would show up. All these like lovely, cute, gentle, nerdy people wearing weird clothes, listening to loud music.
Yeah.
And, just really nice, friendly people. After The Look had broken up and I joined the Slicky Boys, the guitar player formed a band called the Urban Verbs. And, so they're out hunting for a place and they're downtown. They some way, run into the owner of the Atlantic building.
Okay.
And, so they secure rehearsal space somewhere in that complex. And they notice that he's got this like disused sort of venue thing. Okay. It was like, music with dinner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what actually went on. But, not really being used. And they said like, well, hey, why don't you use this and sell some beer and stuff like that? And we'll play in return for free practice space.
There you go.
So you go like, okay. And that becomes the Atlantis Club. Initially, the Verbs were like, they're focused on slowly writing original material. So they had, I don't know, between 20 and 30 minutes.
Okay.
Can't really fill a night with that.
No.
So they reach out to the Slicky Boys, who we're just work dogs. And they're like, yeah, we want to do this. Could you come and play like two sets a night when we do these things? We're like, sure, that's easy. We can do that.
Yeah, you guys used to 3.
Yeah. Yeah, well, The Look was used to 3. The Slicky Boys, I think, at least had 2 sets. And, we started playing there. And as I remember it, I had made some contacts up in New York and started suggesting like, well, here's a phone number for this band. Here's the Marbles. Here's the Erasers.
Oh, wow.
And they kind of built on that and started having sort of national punk acts play there. And it seemed to be going pretty good for a long time. But, at a certain point, management was not friendly to the talent.
Oh, really?
Man. They banned anyone who was not of drinking age.
Oh, wow.
Which, to our understanding, and maybe we were wrong, is technically illegal in DC. Because it was our belief that every place is actually licensed as a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
And maybe I'm wrong, but this is what our belief was. Every place was actually a restaurant that also served alcohol.
Okay.
And it was our contention, like, you can't keep someone out of a restaurant because of their age.
Right.
And they didn't see it that way, the management. And all sorts of stuff blew up. There was like feuding between more established bands, who was going to boycott the Atlantis Club, who was going to support them.
Oh, wow.
So there was some drama there.
So it sounds just like everything else in DC.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
And one of the results of that was that my band, at that point, the Nurses, put together a festival we called the Unheard Music Festival. The idea was everyone who can't play the Atlantis will be allowed to play.
Oh.
We didn't have any money.
Right.
We're booking DC. We had one place and they bounced us out and wound up at DC Space upstairs. They let us do it there. And so it wound up being like, I think the Young Turds from Fairfax, Virginia, the Nurses, some other people, and then all these hardcore bands, some of whom formed to play the festival.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly, Government Issue at some point said, we formed so we could play this because here was a chance to play.
Wow.
Everyone's like, all these guys are like teenagers.
Oh, my God.
I mean, there's film of it. Or video of it. Very crude video of it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so all that's going on, and sort of concurrent with that, Mark Jenkins and I were discontented by the coverage of this local scene.
Okay.
In the established papers, the Washington Post, the Unicorn Times. If the Post wrote about it, it was like poking fun at the fashions.
Okay.
The Unicorn Times had me, reviewing like national and international acts, their releases, things of that nature. We felt they were not interested in covering this other stuff, and we decided, well, we'll cover it then. We'll form our own little newspaper to do that.
Okay.
Largely inspired by a publication in New York called the New York Rocker.
All right.
First couple issues were created by a guy named Alan Betrock, who's no longer with us. And I probably saw the first or second issue.
Oh, wow.
And I'm reading it. I'm like, wow, this is a whole thing devoted to people, none of whom seem to have record deals, none of whom I've ever heard of. They're all New York bands, New York Rocker, okay. I realized after a while, it's like, oh, the people like writing these articles are other musicians.
Right, yeah.
And I just thought like, wow, we could do that. Yeah, let's do that. And we had the skills already.
Yeah.
Mark Jenkins and I were both active writers, so that was no sweat. We had that content. We could generate a lot of content, and we did. We tried to bring more people in, but we had that to start. We weren't reliant on other folks.
Right.
And we both did production work.
Yes, right.
And, my first wife, Tina, was a typesetter. That was her day job, typesetting at the Chronicle of Higher Education. So
you had all the pieces.
We had all the pieces. So she would stay late at work and basically surreptitiously typeset everything.
Yeah.
She got the people who worked the machines to print it out then and give it to us. I bought a light box. Mark would sneak the halftone prints of the Unicorn Times, hand the stuff to me, and I would paste it all together. And, because we had some experience in this world, we never thought we'll just Xerox this. This is we're making a newspaper. This is what New York Rocker looks like. I think I had done work stuffing advertising supplements and Washington Posts.
Okay.
So, we would go to this print shop at 5 a.m. to do this stuff. So I'm like, here's a print shop. They quoted me a decent price, and we supported the printing with the advertising.
That's amazing. I was looking at some of that stuff, and you're releasing an anthology of the two zines that you worked with, or
Yes.
started, I founded, and that's one of the things that fascinated me were the ads and the all the venue ads, like who was playing. It's like Gil Scott Heron, and then 180 degrees from Gil Scott Heron. Right next to it. It's just amazing. It's the diversity of stuff on it is really incredible.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how many people like the advertising. When my wife's the publisher, the founder of DeWolf Publishing House, and I were first discussing this, and she was saying, like, well, how do you want to do this? Being a collector geek, it's like, well, I want it to be like the original stuff, because that's what you want. You don't want it sliced and diced and condensed, because that's a really different thing. You want to see I think about like buying reissues of stuff.
Yeah.
Say like when they did that, what was like 10 CD, 13 for Elevators box.
Oh.
And it's like, of course, of course, you want to see the original things. You don't want it all fancy and weird. You want the thing that you didn't have.
Yeah.
You want at least a reproduction of it. That's what's cool. Yeah. And so we just decided to do it in facsimile at full size. Wow. Which made it a difficult publishing project because you can't do print on demand at that size. They just don't do it.
Oh, wow.
We had to find a printing place that would that worked with that size. But when I look at it, it feels good to me. It's like, well, there it is. It's a nice reproduction of exactly what it was like. When
you were doing it and it was new, how are you distributing these? Are they going into record stores? Are you bringing them to shows? How are people getting the zines?
Well, we mainly distributed them at to record stores in DC, of which, oddly enough, I had a knowledge of where every single one was. I would shop along sooner or later. And we gave them to the outlets for free, and we put a cover price on them that they got to keep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To incentivize them to, number one, take this weird little rag.
Yeah.
Number two, to put it on the counter and not on the floor with all the other free giveaways.
Right.
That they would get no money from. And it worked.
That is
we blew them out. When we would make the rounds, there'd be nothing left.
Well, I mean, the cover is, says a quarter. I mean, who wouldn't do that?
Right.
Especially
and it's priced. I mean, it's priced even in those days, a quarter. At some point, I think we dropped the price to a dime. I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah.
But it's to say it's not free.
Right.
It has some value, even if it's a dime.
Yeah.
But just very accessible because, again, all those wonderful advertisers paid for the printing.
Yeah.
And that was our only cost. Everyone worked for free. So
I was scrolling through the anthology, the PDF that I have, and there's a wonderful interview with Ian MacKaye that I thought that opens it, and it's really interesting to hear the two to read the two of your discussion and how the scene evolved and his involvement in it and how he got started in everything, how he changed from what he was listening to and him getting involved in the punk and the hardcore scenes in DC. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was a very short article by Kim Kane on the Vacations.
Right.
I thought that had me laughing. I mean, his remarks that the band came down with a fatal case of stupidity, and they broke up right after the show. I mean, it was. I loved it. That's the kind of stuff that I really love.
With Tommy Keene, Richard X. Hayman. I mean, that was basically a super group in reverse. I think everyone in that band. I'd have to look at it. But I'm pretty sure that was Richard X. Heyman, who's been making, like one-man band power pop records, frankly, ever since.
Yeah.
And still doing it.
I know. The guy's amazing.
And Tommy Keene, who, of course, made so many great records before his, untimely demise.
Yeah. And it's funny because I do a lot of concert photography in DC, and I'm at the 930 Club a lot, the relocated 930 Club. Mm-hmm. And so they've got a lot of vinyl. They have a whole room where they have albums from everybody who's played the 930 Club from each year. And some of them are, most of the vinyl is out, so the spines are out, but they've got a couple out on display, and one is a Tommy Keene album, and one is Urban Verbs. So I thought that was really awesome. Like, hey, there's a connection here. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. So you saw the scene change from one place to play to a bunch, and now there's so many places in DC for bands to play. Was it a snowball effect? Did it take a long time for so many places to open up? And I know, places come and go, but did it become a big scene soon after your arrival, soon after you guys started playing punk shows, or did it take a while?
I suspect that the amount of clubs that you see open in DC now are just part of sort of major corporations investing a lot in the concert business.
Okay.
People like Bowery Presents, Live Nation, who open up, these very nicely done places, with great sound, and they're designed to look cool, and there's a fair amount of amenities built in. Yeah. But, most of them are chains.
Right.
Which is fine. It's just the way it is.
There are some really awesome independent places. The Pocket, DC9, the Pie Shop. There's some really cool places to see a smaller shows. But there are, like you said, I think the majority, the places everybody knows are, like you said, the corporate places like the Anthem, 930, the Atlantis, reopened behind the 930, But did you see it growing? I mean, could you see? I'm sure nobody could foresee what was going on at this point.
It's like by and large, I mean, we made it grow. We just fought tooth and nail to get places to let us play. I mean, like the Child Herald down in DuPont Circle, which was, the big sort of singer-songwriter place where, again, like people like Emmylou Harris and Springsteen played.
Right.
When I worked downstairs from there at the Unicorn Times, I, kind of made friends with a booking agent and talked her into booking the Ramones for a week, which is
wow.
It was a tiny room. They were really loud. And, I'd say, and it was sold out every night. And basically it was just about the same exact people every night that were there. And it's like, this is the scene. The same, I mean, big overlap with the people who went to the Keg. And by the time I was in the Nurses, so went from the Look to the Slicky Boys to the Nurses. By the time I was in the Nurses, we were just sort of begging for gigs at the kind of small, real clubs that otherwise were like booking like blues and bluegrass and, George Thorogood, places like the Psychedelic, Child Herald.
Yeah.
We'd play the Marble Bar in Baltimore, that was always a trip.
Oh, yeah. Anything in Baltimore is a trip.
That was, the rug was always soggy. Nasty. DC Space, eventually, would have bands play there.
Yeah.
But it was still a handful. Remember, there was a place that was under some Irish bar on Capitol Hill, and they had a basement that, clearly was meant to have been, their tiki bar thing.
Oh.
Because it was lava flow, and you would enter the basement through, a lava flow. But, nighttime Capitol Hill, everyone's gone home.
Yeah.
There's no one there. So they let us in there.
Man.
It was always like it was a handful of places in those days. And, we'd be actively scouting all the time to try to open up new places for us to play.
Like you're saying earlier, a lot of the contributors were people in other bands. Was it
Yes.
Was it fairly easy to get them to write, or was it tough to recruit anybody, or does everybody wanted to help support the scene?
It was one of those things where, like, if you open it, they will come.
Right.
Once it existed, then people either wanted to support the scene because they were excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kim Kane was like that. People just wanted a chance to write and have their stuff published because they wanted to write about this. No one else was going to publish that.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, we'll do that. We're in. So we never really looked for people. They would always find us.
Oh, so was it they were writing and sending you submissions and you're like, okay, this is great? Or were you reaching out to people to write, or was it both?
For Descenes, it was mainly people just finding us.
Oh, okay.
Once they saw it, my home address was in the masthead. We could have put a phone number in there. I forget. It's why not?
Yeah.
Why not at that point in time? And people had great search skills, considering, there was no internet. It was hard to research stuff. Well, not that hard, but you had to put some work and some thought in it.
Exactly.
And people did that work all the time.
Yeah.
I would get phone calls, weird phone calls, just at home, hi, we're in a band and we're in San Francisco. We want to play DC. Where should we play? Oh, well, we could play this place, this place, this place. Do you have contacts? Well, here's some contacts I have. Okay, we'll send you our single. Okay, I'm cool. Get the single in the mail. The Nerves. I'm oh, so that was Peter Case's first band.
Oh, cool. Oh, man.
Yeah. Or another time, the same sort of conversation. It's okay, we'll send you some records. Okay, open up the records. Black Flag. I'm okay, cool.
Man.
And I don't know how they found us.
That's great. Yeah, that is amazing.
But I think partially it's these fanzines were, people would find them and take them home and show their friends and pass them along and spread the word.
So how long?
With Discords, there was a bit more of sort of outreach because, it had some time to, develop some more contacts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But by and large, people were still contacting us.
Wow. Man, people actually putting effort into stuff. That's
Yes.
So how long did Descenes last? And did you go directly from that into Discord, or was there an overlap?
Altogether, the two magazines were published between 79 and 81.
Okay.
There were 6 issues of Descenes. There was 8 of Discords. I seem to remember there was a 6 or 8 month gap between the two.
Okay.
And if you read the magazines, especially the editorials, they all had an editorial me mouthing off about something self-righteously. I was pretty good at that. So pretty good. You could see the disillusionment, growing over time.
Yeah.
This to me was we are trying to build a community. We're trying to make it so that anyone who wants to do stuff, they want to see music, they want to play music, that we're trying to put all these people together. We're trying to help everyone. We're trying to enable all this stuff to happen. And we're expecting that everyone that gets helped is going to then turn around and help everyone else.
Right.
That's the whole idea. It's going to start generating this. This is the culture. Of course, you get a gig, you put someone, if you can, you get someone who needs a gig on the bill with you.
For sure, yeah.
This is an important thing.
Yeah.
And you let people know they're supposed to watch the band.
Yeah.
I remember one time, the nurses were playing. Maybe it was like with the Young Turds, and we're playing that Irish bar in the basement.
Right.
And we opened, even though we were the headliner, and people came and they were like all upset. I'm just like, you're supposed to be here when the show starts.
Yeah.
You're supposed to see the opener.
Yep.
If you'd been here to see the opening, you would have seen us. This isn't my fault. You should have come to support those guys.
Exactly.
Now you learned a lesson. Always come and see all the bands that are playing.
Exactly.
And yeah. And so this was like serious stuff. We really wanted to like create a culture to pass these values along to people. I think it's pretty clear in the editorials that that's what we're trying to do. I think in the coverage you can see that that's what we're trying to do. And, people, in the course of the 6 issues, see me bemoaning the fact that people, as they get more popular and get more power, that they're just deciding, well, we're going to use that to focus on us, to move us further and out.
Oh, yeah.
Move further and out, as opposed to, no, this is our stand. We are trying to create a culture that everyone we know can enjoy. That's the point, is making this so that everyone can enjoy it right here.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave DC, which is every band that made it, that's what they did. They'd leave DC. And we're like, we're staying put. We're going to make a culture here for people. So the bands are sustained. The fans always have great music to play. And when it wasn't happening, I just got pissed off and disgusted and said, like, forget about it.
Yeah.
It did. Actually, I think my words were, it didn't work.
Oh.
It's a failure. Which shows how short-sighted I was. And you'll note if you go through the book, each issue has an intro that I wrote for each issue.
Yeah.
And so it's me sort of evaluating not only like this worked, this didn't work. Wow, look at this interesting, look at how things are changing and growing. And wow, I'm really getting pissed off about this here. It's like, wow, this is blowing up in my face. This is happening to the scene. But it's sort of reached the end of that particular rope.
Yeah.
I didn't see that this was worth doing anymore. And wanted to take a break. And in taking the break, the thing that occurred to me was, well, why don't I try doing that, but like all over the place? Let's help all the other scenes that no one cares about, that their local media doesn't care about it.
Wow. Okay.
Fans aren't caring about it yet. Let's help all these people have, shine a light on their scene.
Okay.
And so we started having these scene reports, and then the coverage is about bands from all over the place, but not the bands in New York and not the bands in LA, except in record reviews. But, it's Minneapolis, which at that point, like, no one cared about.
Right, yeah.
Because the big stars from Minneapolis were the Suburbs, a band that no one remembers anymore.
Right.
The Suburbs, Mission of Burma, ESG out of like New York, Circle Jerks, who at that time were like not the big deal band.
Yeah.
It's just like, so just shifting that and trying to apply the same principles of caring about scenes that were underserved by their media, but all around the country.
So you mentioned, an intro for each piece. As you're compiling all these the zines for the anthology, was there anything that stood out that surprised you? Something maybe you forgot about, or something that just took you by surprise as you were putting it all together?
Mainly how grouchy I was.
All right.
Universally, how grouchy I was. The thing is, we really believed in music. We believed in the importance of it. We believed in the beauty of it. And we believed that anyone who really, really tried hard could do something just astounding. And we were not tolerating people who were being lazy, doing obvious things. And, we were pretty critical of that. We wanted more out of them. It's like, you could do better than that.
That goes a lot with punk. I mean, it's a very DIY, very active genre, I guess, maybe ethos. I don't know. There's a lot of activity going on, a lot of energy in it. So it's understandable that you want the scene to take care of itself, take care of each other, and you don't want people to slack in it.
Yes. I mean, the other thing that stood out is how much of this music is just otherwise forgotten, just wiped from pop history, just doesn't exist in people's minds. There's that, and sort of recognizing that these things capture kind of the beginning of DIY music culture in the United States. This is sort of like the ground floor, where there's like the old 930 Club in DC, the Longhorn Saloon in Minneapolis, the Marble Bar in Baltimore, TT the Bears in Boston. So you've got this batch of clubs and little fanzines popping up. You'll notice that there's fanzine reviews in here. We always give the address so people can find them.
Oh, yes.
These things. It's like, we were trying to be like a directory. It's like when people would mail us records and we would review them, we put the address for that there, because otherwise, how are you going to find them?
Exactly.
You're not going to find most of these in record stores. Nope. No one's going to carry these. Likewise, the fanzines. This is how you find these things. But it's sort of this beginning of this network of small fanzines and small clubs and small labels, and all starting to slowly sort of find each other. And Discords is an example of someone trying to find everyone else and make them visible, make them more widely visible. But that was a process that was happening all around the country, slowly but surely. And this is right about beginning of the 80s. Mm-hmm. By the end of that, this is a thriving thing. I mean, people used to call it Fanzine Nation.
Oh, wow.
It was all these bands that were mainly written about in fanzines. They're playing a particular circuit of clubs that are supporting this kind of music, independent labels that are recording this music and selling enough that, they're able to have businesses. I mean, people labels like Touch and Go, Amphetamine Reptile, SST, Alternative Tentacles.
Yeah, CZ.
Yeah. All that stuff. This is ground floor. 10 years later, it's a pretty big scene.
Yeah.
It's very functional. It's very functional indeed. And that's the point where, you're having people sort of Sonic Youth, et cetera, who are now, really making some major headway, building on this culture. And they knew it. They loved that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known Thurston casually since those days.
Yeah.
And he was a geek for that stuff on day one. Pretty sure he had a fanzine.
Oh, wow. And the amazing thing to me is that all this stuff was organic and word of mouth. I mean, there's no internet to spread all this. It just happened naturally and person to person.
Person to person, naturally. And it happened because a lot of people, my perception is, understood that the overculture didn't care about this stuff, weren't going to help out. If you wanted this to happen, you had to do it.
Yeah.
On whatever level you could. Just going to the local bar and saying, can we come and play on a Tuesday night? There's no one here, right?
Yeah.
Just let's do it. And I'm saying okay.
Yeah.
Or, creating writing about this and printing it up any way you were able to.
Right.
Whether it was like a Xerox or a mimeograph, or, if you were able to like sort of pirate these materials and make something photo offset, just to do that. People wanted to do it. They made it happen.
So did you have all these issues all these years? Have you hung on to all this and just put this compilation together?
I'm a collector geek. Sure.
And it's your stuff.
But most of them I just have one. But of course I kept one. They're kind of yellow. They're kind of fragile.
Yeah.
And, my wife, Amy, who's, the founder of, DeWolf Publishing, did all the heavy lifting. She scanned all these things. She's got a lot of mad skills. She scanned all these things at a certain point. And this is something we're agreeing to disagree on. I'll be honest, I had looked at a copy of like AARP magazine, and it was one of those things where like you flip it and it's like both things are front covers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's two magazines. Like, we're looking at various ways of like dealing with that. I'm like, well, let's just have two front covers. I'll just flip over and that's the way it'll work. And you can't see that in the PDF, but in physical copies, which are like this big.
Yeah.
They're huge. About the size of an interview magazine, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's about the size they are. But to make that work, I mean, the logistics of it. If you're setting up a regular thing, it's pretty easy. It's all facing the same way, and your splits happen in certain ways. You can figure out like how the pages line up.
Yeah.
This one, it flips at a certain point, which was a logistical nightmare. That it took her a couple of go-throughs to get it, but she's smart, she's determined, she has a great eye, and she made it work.
So how did the idea of putting all this together in an anthology happen? Whose idea was it, and how did it get started?
Well, a little over a decade ago, my wife had decided she was going to write. She became a fan of oral histories.
Okay.
I mean, she'd read a couple, but I think it was Please Kill Me, Legs McNeil and Shirley MacLaine's oral history of like New York punk.
Okay.
That really sort of like, she was just enthralled by it. She's like, decided, I want to do this for my local club, City Gardens in Trenton, New Jersey, which is a 10-minute drive from this house, which is where she grew up and where we live.
Okay.
Where we live now. Maybe it's a 10-minute drive. It's in a rough spot.
Yeah.
It was old rough. It has not gentrified.
No.
And she had worked on this for some years, and it was coming along. And, one day on the internet, she came across some guy who turns out was into like hardcore, because she really didn't spend a lot of time at City Gardens at hardcore shows.
Okay. Yeah.
And this guy was all about it. So he kind of did that part of it, put the book together, and she's going to get an agent. She finds Legs McNeil's agent. He accepts it and starts like shopping it. And like every publisher is like, well, could you have more about like New Order playing there and less about these local bands? And, what about Nirvana? Like, how many times did he play? Can't we get more stories about that? And she, at a certain point, just said, no. I wrote this book.
Good for her.
This is what we're doing. This is the book it's good that we're putting out. That's it. And decided, well, I'll just put it out myself. I mean, she's a punk rocker too.
Nice.
I mean, that's what you do. It's like, this is what I want to do. Oh, you're not going to help me? Okay, that's okay. I'll figure out another way to do it.
Yep.
Kickstarters were hot at that point, and she raised the money and made thousands of these things.
Wow.
Hardcover sold out. First and maybe second printing sold out. Now it's just print on demand.
Okay.
Because it's hard to lay out the printing money time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
It's not cheap. And they decided like, well, let's do this for other people now. And I think either the second or third book was a compilation of a fanzine she'd worked on called Hard Times, based around like Lodi, New Jersey.
Okay.
North Jersey, kind of central. It's where Glenn Danzig's from.
Right, yeah.
And I think the editor was like friends with him, would be down in his basement with his like monster collection and all that crap.
Yeah.
And they did that. And they said, like, oh, we're going to put this together. And there was an unpublished issue as well. So that was the big bonus. Here's like the never published issue of Hard Times. And, at that point, I'm like, well, I did one of these too. We could do that too. She goes like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But like other projects came through and, they were dealing with those. Like Mark Wasserman from Bigger Thomas had a book about American ska punk. Mike McGran from Channel 3 did a book. And there were like a couple other things. But eventually she's like, okay, I got time. We could do this one now. Like,
okay. And my understanding is it's a limited run.
Yep. It's 800 copies.
Wow.
Everyone's hand-signed and numbered.
Oh, man.
By me.
Oh, excellent. I have kept you for a while here, so I want to find out how do we find this? How do people buy this? When's it out? When's the release date?
It is out.
All right.
It is currently out. The simplest thing to do is to go to DIWULF as in Frank.com. Just buy it there.
That's pretty easy.
Buy it there. I think the Shopify thing leads to my wife's computer downstairs. On Thursday, when she gets to work from home, she'll like look through the orders, box them up, run them to the post office. It's pretty down home. And every time every time we sell through a box, she goes like, okay, you need to sign another box now. Okay.
Sure.
Just go through them. We've been through like a couple versions of signing pens.
Oh.
Because we thought like the silver Sharpies would like work good.
Yeah.
And they look beautiful for about 5. And then they seem to be either running down or, my theory is that they sort of pick up some of the finish off the book and clog up.
Yeah.
But we found these like weird Sharpie paint pens, which go for a much longer time.
Oh, that's
the only downside being it's paint, so it's wet.
Oh.
We have to like hold them open and like dry them so they don't smear.
Oh, man.
We got it down. And they all come with a free poster.
Oh, nice.
So the first Descenes had a DC punk family tree. It was inspired by Pete Frame's family trees that ran in the British magazine Zigzag.
Right.
Way back in the day. So it's just like, so here's the first batch of bands that existed. Like, here's kind of like where the bands these guys were in before they were sort of more into the punk and early underground thing. So it starts from like whatever bands they were in to like then what was happening when the DC punk scene started.
Okay.
And it just mainly follows like those guys till the date of that first issue, sometime in 1979.
Wow.
And, one of the people that's detailed in there is a guy named Don Zientara.
Yes.
Who's run Inner Ear Studios like forever now.
Legend.
But he was in a band called, he's in the family tree. He was in Ravenstone and then like No Joe, the Mark Hoback band. And I think at that point he was just engineering and recording stuff. And then later we formed a band together called Under Heaven for had an interesting tenure. It was good.
Oh yeah, he came on. You introduced me to him, and he came on with that one release a few years ago.
Yep.
Before he had to shut the studio down.
Right.
So unfortunately,
but that family tree hung in Inner Ear, like in the hallway. It's like right in the center of it, throughout its existence.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, if you ever see like pictures of Inner Ear Studios and you see like a cluttered hallway,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see that family tree hanging up, framed.
Oh, that is so cool.
That this is a reproduction of that.
Man, this has been a blast. Howard. I knew one day I would get you on this podcast instead of one of your clients. So I'm glad it's for something so cool, because I haven't seen a project like this. I mean, I know you just mentioned there were a few, but I wasn't aware of any of that. So this is really awesome. I live in the DC area. I've lived here for...
Springfield, right?
What's that?
Springfield, right?
Winchester.
Winchester, I'm sorry.
So no worries about that. I mean, so I'm about 75 miles due west of DC, but I go in all the time to shoot concerts. I work in Leesburg, so that's not too far.
Okay.
So when you showed me, you told me about this anthology, I said, all right, this is going to be really cool. So I lived here as a kid, moved away to New Jersey, Alabama, moved back up to Virginia here. So it's I'm loving the DC music scene, and they have people like you to thank for what we have now. So on behalf of everybody going into DC listening to music, thank you so much, particularly the independent places. Thank you so much for everything you did early on.
Thank you very much.